Hello, good evening.
Good
Can you
evening,
hear
madam.
me? Yes, Shanaja.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So we were discussing the third day's content related to productive skills, that is, about writing skill. We were discussing the similarities that the writing skill holds with the other skills, and also certain other issues related to uh, the writing skill. So today, the last day's content of Unit 7, that is day 4's content, we need to handle. We'll handle that and complete it. Right. So see, this is what we have already completed on day 3. These are the subtopics that we did. We focused on aspects connected to writing. Then when it comes to teaching writing or writing out any kind of a text, what are the important features or criteria that we need to take into account? The audience, the purpose, all those we discussed under the first subtopic. Then we talked about the similarities or the connection between writing and the reading skill. Similarly, the connection that the writing skill holds with speaking skill. Likewise, we analyze the connection as well as the differences between writing and the other skills. Then components of writing in terms of teaching writing. What are the important feature aspects that we need to teach when it comes to handling a writing lesson in the class? So thereby we focused on the components of writing skill that we can do with the primary grade or maybe the beginner level learners. Then those of them who are in the adolescent level or maybe the intermediate and the advanced level learners. And last one, the two approaches that are used to teach writing: product approach and process approach. This is what we did during our last session some time back in relation to the third day's content. Today we need to cover the last day's content topic, day 4. Look at the subtopics that we will be handling today. Teaching writing. When it comes to teaching the writing skill, it can be any component or any sub-skill. We go by the clog analysis. When we teach the learners how to write a particular piece of writing, letter or paragraph or any kind of writing, we need to focus on the CLOG criteria. So the clog analysis, what it is all about, and what are the sub descriptors that fall under this. Then we will be discussing about the presentation stage of a writing lesson, how to initiate a writing lesson, and also how to present any kind of writing task or the teaching component related to a writing lesson. Then you have the pre-writing activities for both categories, for the beginners as well as for the young learners. Then the practice and production stage. And the last one, criteria for marking writing tasks and also the correction code. It's not mentioned here, but we'll be discussing about that as well. Correction code used in correcting a piece of writing. Right, so these are the subtopics that we will be handling today. Go through them quickly. Right, look at the slide. in producing any piece of writing, we need to consider the clog analysis, right? So when we teach any teaching component related to the writing skill or maybe any sub-skill of writing, we have to focus on the content related to that topic or related to that piece of writing. What is the content that we are going to include? Then we need to think about the layout of that article or maybe of that piece of writing, the format or the layout related to that particular piece of writing. And also how to organize the ideas when it comes to, for example, if you are going to write a business letter or a formal letter, we need to focus on the layout of the formal letter and also how we need to organize our ideas appropriately should be taken into account. And the fourth one, grammar, basic grammar. That means accurate sentences, forming error-free, accurate sentences. That is very important in terms of teaching writing. Right, so these are the four important issues or aspects that we have to focus on when it comes to teaching the writing, any writing sub-skill or any component related to writing. When we tend to analyze or correct, evaluate, not analyze, when we tend to evaluate a learner's piece of writing, again, we go by this same criteria. The names might change a little bit, but it is the marks or maybe the points are awarded again for the content, format, and all those things, organization, mechanics of writing and all. Right? So when teaching itself, when teaching them how to write out any piece of writing, definitely teacher needs to focus on these four aspects. Then comes two more, that is lexis, connected to language, styles of language, using different styles of language. So what are the appropriate word choice that the writer or maybe the learner can use according to the situation? And also the style of writing. We talked about different styles of writing, 4 different styles of writing in the previous session. Can you remember them? What were they? Any idea, or just try to recall and tell me what are the different styles of writing, 4 different styles that we talked about? Narrative. What was the other one? When we do creative writing, or when we ask them to create an essay or maybe a poem or something like that, what kind of a writing style is mostly used? If it is a story, it's narrative. With creative writing, mostly something that starts with DES, complete rest of the word.
Yes.
Yeah,
Descriptive.
good. Descriptive writing. So you have the narrative writing, you have the descriptive writing. Then with scientific topics, when we tend to write an essay or anything related to a scientific topic, what is the writing style? That is
Expository.
expository. And the last one,
Argumentative.
argumentative, right? So that is the last aspect that we need to focus on. The word choice or the language, under this you can have the different kinds of sentences like that of complex sentence, simple sentence, compound sentence. use of different types of sentences, word choice, all those fall under this. Then, depending on the topic that the person is handling, the style of writing will get determined. Formal or informal, narrative, expository, all those. Right? So you need to remember when teaching any piece of writing, when we tend to teach them to write something, it can be a paragraph, it can be a notice note, whatever it may be, the clog analysis or the CLOG, clog, has to be taken into account. Then C, under content, what is expected to be included? Read. Choose content relevant to the given topic, right? So appropriate content, related points should be focused on, not just bringing in unwanted information, but the learner should make sure that the content is appropriate or suitable for the given topic. See now for this, in this example, environmental pollution. It's a wide topic, right? So when we talk about environmental pollution, the learner can define what pollution is. First and foremost, they have to define the term and then talk about the different types of pollution, land, water, air. Think of any other appropriate sub-point that you can include over here when it comes to environmental pollution. After talking about these three, think of one more relevant topic
Causes
that you
of
can.
environmental pollution?
Yeah.
Causes, ma'am?
I can't hear you. You're telling something, but I can't hear you. Very faintly. Put it in the chat box. If something is wrong with your mic, doesn't matter, put it in the chat box. Causes of pollution, yeah. Methods to overcome pollution or prevent pollution, right? So all those relevant topics should be included in this, according to this title. You can include all those possible subtopics. But if it is about consequences of pollution, yeah. But if it is about, say, only about water pollution, then the topic or maybe the title is very much narrow. Therefore, whatever the information that the learners are including under that topic should be very carefully chosen, right? So, very important is to decide on the content according to the question. By comprehending the question very clearly, reading and comprehending, soon after comprehending the question very clearly, the content has to be decided. Then comes the format or the layout of the article, right? So read what is expected out of the layout. Observe the format of the article. That means basically the structure. If it is a notice, we have to think of the structure of the notice, note, or maybe the paragraph. We have to focus on the format of that particular article. Highlight on each structural components individually. If it is the title, or maybe if there is a salutation or an ending, a formal ending, all those have to be highlighted to the learners. Not just telling them, okay, look at the layout and try to identify the different parts or the components of the letter. Unlike that, it should be elaborated. The learners should be able to identify the layout correctly, label them, and tell something, speak something about each of those components. That is what is expected out of the second, or maybe the subtopic of layout. Stick to the appropriate format when it comes to formal documents. Very important. With informal documents, layout doesn't hold much importance. But when it comes to formal documents like that of formal letters, or maybe any kind of circulars or memos, with those kind of formal documents, layout is very important. And when marking, marks are awarded to the layout. Even if they have forgotten to finish or end the letter, no marks will be given for the format. If 3 marks are allocated for the format, you can't give 3 marks, or maybe at times, depending on the marking scheme, at times no mark can be given for the layout. It depends. If 2 structural components are omitted, there won't be any single mark given. If only one is omitted, then maybe 1 or 2 marks might be given, right? So layout is very important, thereby making them to identify or distinguish the layout or the format of these formal documents are very important. And also the terminology, making them to identify or use the terminology, title, signature, complementary clause, right? So all those are very important in terms of layout. Not only identifying, but also labeling them appropriately. Then we come towards the O, content, layout, organization. Read. The arrangement of ideas should be focused, right? First of all, under content, we would have decided what kind of ideas or what kind of information should be included. Now, when it comes to arranging those different pieces of information, how to prioritize those ideas based on the order of importance, the learner needs to prioritize them. So that is done under organization, right? So basically, what are we going to talk about first? Or maybe the introduction. What kind of an introduction should be written? All those fall under organization. Ensure there is a connection among the sentences in a paragraph. If it is a paragraph, definitely the cohesion between paragraphs, coherence between the sentences in the paragraph, all those, then conclusion, all those come under organization. That is what is focused under organization. And also when it comes to a literary work, if it is, say, an essay connected to literature, then the quotation, appropriate quotation, whether they have used those quotations appropriately. All those are checked under organization. The smooth flow found in the entire piece of writing, particularly in an essay. Overall, whether they have included all the necessary points and related to the build-up of the essay. Is there a smooth development found in the essay? That is what is checked under organization. So if there are language lapses, if there are grammatical errors, obviously the flow won't be there. When we go through the essay, the meaning will not be conveyed properly. Right? So that is where the language and the organization, they get intertwined. Arguing, reasoning, refuting, when building up the essay or any kind of, mostly when it comes to debatable topics, literary related topics, questions, you find reasoning, evaluating, analyzing, refuting, all those coming into the build-up of the essay. They become a part of the essay. And also the handwriting, the clarity of handwriting, and the division of paragraphs. If quotations are used, how they have used the quotations within the paragraph, or maybe soon after discussing that point, whether they have used the quotation and then started out with the next point. All those are checked under organization. So that is related to CLOG. Now is discussed. G is not discussed. G means grammar. So you don't have much in relation to grammar. What we focus over there is error-free language. It can be simple sentences. They can use complex or compound sentences. But whatever the language that is used should be error-free and clear. That is what is checked under the G component. Right? So the first three, CLO, are discussed over here, but don't forget the G. G is as equally important as the other three. So tell me something about CLOG analysis quickly before we move towards the next one. What is it used for? What are we using CLOG analysis for? Or
When we
when
write
are we using? Yeah.
when we write a piece of writing, we need to consider those things. Clock means content, layout, organization, grammar,
Okay.
lexis.
Other than CLOG, what are the two more things that we have to take into account?
Lexis and style.
Lexis and style. Under Lexis, what will you check for? Lexis means, lexeme means what? What is the meaning of lexeme? Vocabulary. Lexeme means vocabulary. So lexis means basically words. We are checking for appropriate word choice. Right. Under content, what should we focus on when it comes to content? What have we, or what should be the main focus on the content?
Topic.
the
topic
things,
is given.
subtopics that they include in their content?
Information related to the topic. Appropriate information related to the topic. Subtopics. Yeah, subtopics. And any kind of information related to the topic. That is very important. Irrelevant, if there are any irrelevant information presented, marks should be deducted from the content. And remember, content carries the most marks. If it is out of 15, content will have around 6 to 7 marks. Therefore, content becomes very important. Then we come towards the presentation stage of a writing lesson. So on day 4, we are focusing more on the teaching component of writing, that is, handling a writing lesson in the class, the pedagogical side of writing. Thereby, just like the other lessons, even when it comes to the writing lesson, we go by the 3 Ps: presentation, practice, and production. See, during the presentation stage, that is not to be the input stage, how the writing lesson gets initiated, or maybe the aims behind the presentation stage, why the presentation stage is held. Read up. To win the attention of the learners, to get their attention, to draw the attention of the learners towards the teaching component. Then for the purpose of warming up the learners. So there are multiple aims. With all those aims on mind, we tend to have the the presentation stage. In order to introduce the teaching component, right? So one of the important aims is to introduce the teaching component formally, to set the stage for the following stages, to prepare them for the practice and production stage. Only when we present the component properly, explain it and elaborate on it, they will be able to practice it and produce the language. If we don't present it properly, you give a definition, you tend to define the component, explain it, giving examples, elaborate it, then the practice and the production stages can be handled, right? So presentation stage is done with that view. Exemplify, explain, elaborate. These are the 3 E's that get related to the presentation stage. Not only with writing, you can apply it for any lesson. Exemplify, give examples. You define the concept, give examples. Elaborate, elicit further examples from them, or maybe lead a discussion based on that. What are we doing? We are elaborating on the concept. Then explain, right? Further explanation is given. So remember those 3 E's: exemplify, explain, and elaborate. Those are the 3 E's that are connected to the presentation stage. Then C, leads a discussion on the topic. These are the possible ways that you can start out the lesson, right? So you can play a game, or you can just make them to identify the format of different texts, or discuss related to the topic. Introduce the writing component. We talked about the model the process writing and the product writing. So you can use any kind of different models of notices, letters, paragraphs, whatever that you're aiming to teach, and start out your lesson. Brainstorm. Give them a question. Write a question on the board and make them to think about it. Whatever the thoughts that would come in their mind related to that question, they can discuss or note down points. Brainstorm for the needed vocabulary or the content, right? So depending on the requirement, we can make them to brainstorm. So brainstorming is a technique that you can use with any topic that you are intend to teach. Showing models, pictures, or any other stimulis, word stimulis, visuals, pictures, stimulis, all those, or even certain listening tasks, doing certain listening tasks and making them to be very attentive. Maps, providing mind map to elicit ideas, not a total mind map, but maybe half completed mind map. Highlighting structures, vocabs in the given text. If you show them a model, say the model of a paragraph, you can highlight the topic sentence and the concluding sentence in different colors, and then make them think why those two sentences are written in a different color. So what is happening over there? Basically, they are made to brainstorm. Provide pre-writing tasks to orient them towards the practice stage. Any kind of simple task, controlled writing, or any other possible pre-writing task can be given. If the learners are really weak, you can do some pre-writing tasks with them so that they will be able to identify the vocabulary or the structure of what they are intended to, what they will be taught. So all these are some possible ways of starting out a writing lesson. The presentation stage is very important. If this goes wrong or if it is not properly addressed, you can't expect them to perform well in the practice and production stages. Therefore, it's teacher-oriented, teacher-centered. Planning becomes very important when it comes to the presentation stage. Go through it and ask me if you have anything to be clarified related to the presentation stage. Tell me the 3 E's that I told you, which get connected to the presentation stage. What are those 3 E's? What was the first E? You were not listening, you're doing something else. Where I can't find your answer. Introduce the teaching component. No, I'm asking about the 3 E's. I mentioned you 3 important activities, or not activities, 3 important functions that the teacher needs to do during the presentation stage. What are those 3 important functions, starting with E?
Effort,
Yeah? What is it?
effort,
Not effort, not effort, something else, something connected to example. When you make it into a verb, example, turn it into a verb and tell me. Exemplify. You give examples. Exemplify. What is the other E? Explain. Don't forget it. Exemplify. Then explain. Then you elaborate. You discuss further related to what you have explained. Right? You give examples. First E, exemplify. Then the second one, explain. You explain, you describe, or you bring in more examples, or you can use visuals. Any technique, can you explain further? Then you elaborate. Maybe you can get some ideas from the learners related to the topic and all. Right? So what are the 3 E's? Repeat them.
simplify, explain, elaborate.
Right. Those 3 functions should be done by the teacher when it comes to the presentation stage. Right? You can use the model, or you can use the brainstorming technique, or maybe highlight the structures. Any technique from this list can be used, but make sure by using these to explain, elaborate, and also exemplify. Then we come towards teaching writing for beginners. Go through the stages of writing for beginners. Beginners, basically, primary grades from grade 1 to 4 or 5. Introducing the script, right? For the small children, first of all, we need to make them identify the script or the letters. So there are certain letters that are more or less alike, similar, not from an adult's point of view, but from a child's point of view. Now, take the letter I and the letter L. For a child, they might seem same. If the dot is not used, they might misinterpret those 2 letters. Similarly, the uppercase letter and the lowercase letters, like that of P, capital P, uppercase letter, simple P, lowercase letter. They might struggle to identify which one is the uppercase P and which one is the lowercase p. Simple F and capital F. Very minute difference, right? So there are so many letters which are more or less identical. So in the case of beginners, first and foremost, they should be taught to distinguish the letter. That is very important before making them to write. Actually, it's a part of the reading skill. But when we tend to practice writing, before we make them to write, we need to make sure that the child is able to differentiate the letters. Then only they'll be able to write it correctly. Otherwise, even the writing will be done wrong. Right? So starting with the letter distinction, making them to distinguish letters. That should be orally done first. Then comes introducing the script or the letters. Script means letters. So we don't make them write the letter, all capital letters first. A to Z, make them write all the capital letters. Then all the simple letters. Likewise, it's not done. See how it is done. First, the hand, the training the hand. That means they are made to draw shapes connected to the letters. Right? They are not made to write any letters. Maybe just hyphen, small hyphens, making them to draw horizontal lines, vertical lines. Then zigzag. Now, when it comes to writing W, you have the zigzag movement involved. R or T, you have the vertical line and the horizontal line involved. Therefore, the shapes they are made to write the shapes in a slate or maybe in their exercise book. You make them write the shapes based on the script direction. Now, in the case of English, the script direction is from left to right. So if you are making them to draw circles, you need to tell them from the left-hand margin, you need to draw the circle or half circle, crescent, right? So different shapes are introduced to the child. They need to name the shapes. It can be square, it can be horizontal lines, vertical lines, zigzag, or maybe half circle. All those shapes are introduced and they are made to draw it in their exercise book. That is known to be training the hand. No any letters are formally taught. Remember that very clearly. It will go for about a month or so drawing these shapes or making them to draw the shapes properly should be done according to the direction, script direction. Then the shape and the direction of the letters, that means using an arrow. If it is, say, B, you have to start from the top line and come down, then draw a curve. Likewise, you teach them the direction and shape of the letter. You have the letter writing book, or maybe on the board, the teacher needs to make them identify the shape of the letter. Or writing in the air using the finger, teacher can write on the air and show. Tracing the script. In each person's book, they are made to trace the letter. The letter is already written. You might have seen the letter writing books. The arrows will indicate where they need to start first, then go up second, then again go down third. Likewise, the numbers and the arrows, following the numbers and the arrows, the learners are made to trace the script. Right? So first, any letter that involves the vertical lines, mostly P, B, T, these kind of letters are introduced first. H, simple H. Then comes the horizontal, capital H or any other, A, right? So you have the horizontal component over there. So likewise, the letters, they are not made to write the letters. They have to just trace the letters using the pencil. Then comes the copying stage. Copying the letter, they are not made to trace it. They have to write on their own. P will be given. Simple T or maybe B will be given. They have to look at it and copy. Individually, they need to copy the letters. Copy the words. Initially the letters, then the words, phrases, afterwards the text. Maybe grade 3, very simple text, 2 or 3 line text. Then extended copying. A few more lines are added. So handwriting is taught, maybe in a later stage like that of grade 4 or so. So this is how the writing skill, the initial writing skill is introduced or should be introduced to the beginners. Guided writing, and ultimately guided writing you are not going to do with beginners. You can, but very limited guided writing, mostly in intermediate level classes you do guided writing. With the copying stage, you have the beginner level coming to an end. Then guided writing, independent writing is mostly they get related to intermediate stages. You can do ordering letters or maybe very limited fill in the blanks activities can be done with beginners, but extensively they are done with intermediate learners. Look at the pre-writing activities for beginners. Writing on air, that is teacher using the finger and just writing on the air and showing them how to form a letter. Or you use your fingers and just mime how to write the simple F and ask them to guess what is the letter that I have written. Or you can ask them to write on the air and another person to guess the letter, another student to guess the letter. Right? So they are not doing it on their exercise book. They do it in the sandpit, either in the sandpit or just in the class, they do it in the space. Yeah. Drawing pictures. Pictures of maybe, say, very simple objects. Ball. Now, any object that starts with the letter B, it can be ball. It can be a balloon. Right? So you give them the object and ask them to word and ask them to draw the picture. Painting, coloring, right? So indicating the color. If you take a cat, the ears should be yellow, the eyes should be black, likewise. Instructions, oral instructions can be given and make them to color. So what is happening, basically, the child is not writing anything, but the hand is getting trained. That is the psychomotor or maybe a fine motor activity that is required for them to produce any kind of writing correct. Anagram means jumbled words. For example, TREE, tree, you jumble it and give RET and then another E. Now they need to put it into the correct form. Word games, crossword puzzles, or any kind of word games. Sequencing the letters and forming words, all those labeling. Go through them all these tasks and ask me if you are unable to understand any pre-writing tasks that can be done with beginners. If you think or if you know any other tasks that are you suitable, just mention them as well. Concept map. Concept map means we will be discussing about it later as well. It's a kind of a, you have a topic now, say environmental pollution. You have the main topic in the center, and from there onwards, you have different branches. Land pollution. Then land pollution will have further branches. Reasons for land pollution. Overcoming land pollution. Likewise, you have different branches that would branch out from the main topic, sub-branches. We will be discussing about the concept map later as well. They are used very useful pre-writing tasks, not only with beginners, even with adult learners. Then comes pre-writing activities for young learners. Read. Here too, mapping. Mapping means concept mapping. Concept maps. Brainstorming, you know what is brainstorming. Discussing also, you know, free writing, looping, listing, outlining, just giving some guidelines. Charting, you divide it into chart. For example, advantages and disadvantages of internet. Charting is a good technique for them to build up on that topic. Then mapping, right? Read, listing. Now, everything is not explained. These are very common topics, therefore they are not explained. Whatever that is really needed or whatever that you might come across for the first time is explained. Read what listing is all about. Listing is particularly useful if your starting topic is very broad and you need to narrow it down. For example, environmental pollution. It's a broad topic. If you find that your learners are struggling with it or they don't have adequate information connected to that topic, then we need to narrow it down. So in such instances, we tend to use the technique of listing. See, explain the impact of pollution on the environment. So which kind of pollution? Is it land pollution's impact or air pollution, sound pollution, water pollution? So many different kinds of pollutions are there. In such instances, we have to be well focused on one particular aspect. In order to do it effectively, the listing technique is used. It's much helpful in generating new vocabulary related to a topic. So a narrow topic will be the focus, and word choice, any lexemes or phrases connected to that topic can get brainstormed. You can make them to come out with any kind of word choice related to that topic and list down those word choices, list down those ideas, so that building up a paragraph or an essay will be very much to the point. That is the usage, or that is why listing becomes important. Useful to provide the needed language for writing. Right? So if it is a narrow topic, you can be well focused and it's easy to provide language support, vocabulary, or maybe any phrases, examples, all those can be easily provided. Listing is a process of producing a lot of information within a short time. It's done in groups. Usually, the learners are put into groups and they are made to list out any suitable information or suitable expressions. It can be proverbs, idioms, all those language-related features come under listing. Jot down all the possible terms that emerge from the general topic you are working on. Make learners work in a team, right? So it's very important to make them work as a group. It's a team effort. Listing is not effective when it's done individually. You can make them brainstorm and list down the important language expressions or topics individually, but ultimately they have to pool their ideas and prepare the final draft. All team members can generate ideas. Let one member write them down. So they pool their ideas together and prepare the final copy. They should create a narrow topic, right? So earlier itself, we saw listing is done in order to choose or maybe minimize or get a very specific topic, related topic. Write a topic sentence suitable for the topic, right? So listing can be done in relation to the information of the topic as well as for the language purpose, to generate language features like that of vocabulary or any other language expressions. So you can, if you are having 4 groups in the class, we can assign 2 groups to think about any language related issues, vocabs, proverbs, idioms, words, phrases connected to that topic. The other 2 can talk about, they can think about the appropriate information connected to the topic. Then you have to mingle the members from all 4 groups and make them develop the final draft. It's a very interesting kind of a technique. It takes some time. You can't finish it within 40 minutes or half an hour. Definitely it will take more than that, 1 hour or maybe 2 or 3 periods, but it's worth doing it. It helps them to develop their language skills. Then comes mind map. See, this is what you call a mind map. You have a very tiny sketch of a mind map. You have the main idea in the center. And then from the main idea, you have sub-ideas. Sub-ideas branch out from the main idea. Then further branches according to our requirement. You can create any further branches. So depending on the essay topic, the learners or the teacher has to decide on the mind map, the sketch of the mind map. The teacher can just provide the basic topic and some branches. We can make them brainstorm and complete the other twigs or maybe the other subtopics. Right? So now when this mind map is completed, it's easy. It will be easy for them to develop each paragraph based on each branch. They can develop a paragraph. You call it the mind mapping technique or just mapping or clustering. All the names are synonyms. Go through. Clustering, also called mind mapping or idea mapping, is a strategy that allows you to explore the relationship between ideas. Right? So the main idea is there, and from the main idea, you have the sub branches. So definitely there is a relationship between each sub idea and the main idea. Then further, you can have different number of branches. Put the subject in the center of a page, circle or underline it. Creating mind maps itself is a writing task. They don't have to build up an essay or construct an article based on the mind map. You just give them the topic, say online shopping. Construct a mind map based on online shopping. So that itself is a advanced or maybe somewhat advanced writing task. As you think of other ideas, write them on the pages surrounding the central idea. So you have the central idea and all the other ideas you have to write as branches. Link the new ideas to them, to the central circle with lines. Right? So just think of a tree, just like that of a tree. From the central idea, you have the other ideas branching out. As you think of ideas that relate to new ideas, add those in the same way. Now, depending on the level of the learner, teacher can ask them to build up or maybe to elaborate on one particular branch. They don't have to write about each and every branch. You can just specify and tell them, write about the disadvantages, any 3 disadvantages or any 2 disadvantages of online shopping. Or advantages. Likewise, you can ask them to focus only on one particular strand. The result will look like a web on your page, right? So the spider web like. Clustering, that is mind mapping, is especially useful in determining the relationship between ideas. You will be able to distinguish how the ideas fit together, especially where there is an abundance of ideas, right? So it's a very good technique to generate information in order to gather information on the topic. Usually mind mapping is done. Go through it once again and ask me if you don't understand anything connected to mind map. With intermediate learners, it works very well. With small children, beginners, it's not that much effective. With advanced and intermediate learners, mind mapping technique is very, very much used and it works very well. Then comes free writing. We are talking about writing tasks for young learners. So young learners in the sense basically from grade 6 to 9 likewise, right? So for those kind of learners, we have seen how many techniques we have seen. Tell me, what are those? Can you recall and tell me? Brainstorming. What else? What are the techniques? Discussing.
Free writing,
Free
listing,
writing. Right. Looping,
outlining.
listing and all. Outlining, charting, mapping. Out of all these 8, we talked about listing and then mind mapping. Now you have the free writing technique. Read what free writing is all about. Right? Free writing. The title itself reflects something related to the characteristics of the activity. Right? There is no restriction in relation to what they are expected to write. Based on the topic, the child is free to write anything and everything. But it should be related to the topic. There is no restriction at all. See, is a process of generating a lot of information by writing non-stop in full sentences for a predetermined amount of time. So 3 important phrases are here. One is the writing should be non-stop. They have to keep on writing. Amount of time. There is a time duration. It can be 1 minute. You can ask them to write for 2 minutes. For a brief period of time, this non-stop writing is done. Don't ask them to write 5 minutes, 10 minutes like that. It won't be effective. The lesser the time, the efficiency of the writing will be more. Effectiveness will be more, right? So non-stop writing in full sentences should be encouraged. If you think your learners can't write full sentences, they are too weak, then you can ask them to write just fragments, maybe words and phrases. But non-stop, they have to write. If you're asking them to write about gardening, if the child can't produce a grammatically correct sentence, they can just write flowers or maybe fertilizer, leisure time. Likewise, if the learners are very weak, teacher can encourage them to write even words or phrases within that short period of time. It allows you to focus on a specific topic, but forces you to write quickly, that you are unable to edit any of your ideas. Soon after the time is finished, you need to make them just read out what they have written. It can be fragments of sentences. Doesn't matter, just read out any word or maybe a sentence or a phrase related to that topic that they have written. It's a very informal way of writing. If you are making them to write about a park, you can just ask them to close their eyes for a few seconds and imagine or think of a park that they have visited and quickly write down whatever that comes to their mind. Pre-write on the assignment or general topic for 5 to 10 minutes non-stop with advanced learners, not with intermediate. With advanced learners, 5 to 10 minutes slot can be practiced. Mostly 5 or 6 minutes, not going up to 10 minutes. Force yourself to continue writing even if nothing specific comes to mind. Right? So it can be some irrelevant ideas, but connected to the overall topic. Include whatever that is related to the topic. So they pool their ideas. Initially, it's an individual activity. Each person has to free write on his own. Afterwards, they pool. You put 3 or 4 together, 3 together in a group and make them construct any possible points for that particular task. After finishing free writing, look back what you have written and highlight the most prominent and interesting ideas. Based on those, you can start writing your article or maybe producing the writing task. So it's a very interesting kind of a technique for children. They would love to do it. Even weak learners, they will try to contribute at least a word or two when it comes to free writing. Right? So it can be done within a short period, within one period of time as well. So the teacher needs to select a topic appropriate for the learner's level. Then comes looping. It's also related to free writing. Read how it is getting related to free writing. Looping begins with free writing. It can help you narrow a topic. So initially, you make them free write on the given topic. If it is about gardening, you make them to free write on the topic gardening. Then choose the best idea or word or maybe a phrase from what you have written. Underline it or circle it. For example, if the child has written the word fertilizer, he or she can underline that word fertilizer and again start to free write using that particular word. Free write more on the concept of fertilizer. Take that idea and begin free writing again. Likewise, it develops. Again, you ask them to underline 1 or 2 more words or phrases related to fertilizer and build up a few more sentences related to that particular phrase. So that is known to be the looping technique. It's a very good technique for developing vocabulary. language-related development is done using looping technique. Repeat the process more time. Follow the rules of rewriting. Afterwards, now you don't ask them to loop over and over again. Maybe after they have looped for about 3 times or maybe 3 or 4 times, you make them construct a paragraph on gardening. Right? So that is how the looping technique works. If it is about, say, formal writing, they can loop on different, maybe say about title or salutation, whatever that they know related to the salutation, term salutation, they can write on it. Then comes the journalist questions, 5 WH questions. Read. Ask 6 questions. Journalists traditionally ask 6 questions when they are writing any information into 5 W's and 1 H. Right? So journalist questions are known to be the WH questions. Even the how question or how often is known to be a WH question. So that's why they have given us 5 W's. See, what are the 5 W's that the learner is expected to ask before he starts writing on a topic? Who, depending on the situation or on the topic, who, what, where, when, why, and how. So by eliciting answers to these questions, sometimes you may not be able to elicit answers for all of these. It can be just what and why, or maybe what, where, and why. But make sure to teach the learners, ask all these 5 WH questions before they start writing out on the topic. These questions can be used to explore the topic that is being written about. Journalist questions are a powerful way to develop a great deal of information about a topic very quickly in order to decide on the content. This is a very useful kind of a task. Right? Who are the participants? If you are asking them to write a notice, who are the participants? Where is the event held? What is the time of the event? Or who is the chief guest? Why are they holding that event? Or maybe what is the purpose? Likewise, make them analyze the question by asking all these 5 or 6 WH questions, so that they will get information connected to the question. So they have to ask these questions, find answers or get relevant information for these questions, jot them down on their answer sheet or wherever that is possible, and then try and develop the essay or any piece of writing. So that is related to the activities of young learners, right? So, or techniques, writing techniques or writing activities that you can provide to the young learners. Tell me, what are the techniques that we saw? Clustering. What are the other techniques? Recall and tell me from the beginning. Only for young learners, not for the beginners. Discussing, free writing. Okay. One more. Listing. What else? Something that starts with L, not listing, but another one.
Looping.
Looping. Good. Looping. Then the last one that we discussed, what, where, when. Journalist questions. Right? So basically, listing, looping, mind mapping or clustering, journalist questions. What else? Free writing, right? So all those are very important techniques that you can use with intermediate learners, even with adult learners, you can use them, right? So both categories can use these tasks effectively. Then we come towards the practice stage of a writing lesson. We are talking about how to develop a writing lesson in the class, thereby during the presentation stage, how to start out the lesson, and also some possible activities that you can give during the practice stage or maybe production stage, some possible activities that you can give for both young learners as well as beginners as well as young learners. That is what we saw. Then coming towards the practice stage, look at the tasks that can be used in the practice stage. First and foremost, remember in the practice stage, we need to provide them more of controlled or semi-controlled activities. Mostly one controlled and one semi-controlled. Why control? Because this is a stage where the learners can't perform on their own. Most of the learners, they lack self-confidence to perform on their own. Thereby, we are giving them some kind of controlled activities. One control, or if really weak, even both activities you can give as controlled. Right? So practice stage 2 and production stage 2. Altogether, there will be 4 tasks provided in a standard lesson. Writing or reading or listening, any kind of lesson. Standard lesson will have 4 tasks. Whatever the task that we are giving during the practice stage, remember to give controlled and semi or maybe just controlled tasks. If they are really good, excellent children, then you can give 2 semi-controlled. But mostly the general practice is different controlled activities should be practiced. To reinforce certain grammar rules, what we have presented and explained, elaborated, exemplified in the presentation stage, language functions or structures or maybe paragraph writing, whatever that we have presented is provided with controlled activities during practice stage. Some controlled activities are given here. Copywriting, you give them a paragraph. With small children, you just make them copyright. Totally controlled activity. They can't write whatever that is not given. If you have given one sentence, they have to copyright only that one sentence. So it's a totally controlled activity. Sentence structure. He is my father. Now you make them to develop similar sentence structure. He is my brother. He is my uncle. Or you can even ask them to differentiate the pronoun. She is my mother. She is my grandmother, likewise. Right? So sentence structure, you give the basic structure and make them construct similar ones. Substitution table, this is the substitution table. You give them the words that are required to build up a sentence and you ask them to create a sentence. I am reading books in the library. We are reading books in the library. You, likewise, he, she. For you, now this substitution table is not completed. Therefore, the learners have the opportunity to use whatever possible words over here. You are singing a song. Likewise, they can, now this is not a totally controlled activity, it's a semi-controlled activity. Why? They have the opportunity of filling these cages. If words are given on, then it will become a totally controlled. So you can have substitution tables either as controlled activities or as semi-controlled activities. In this example, this is a semi-controlled activity. Why? You have two cages without any words. Parallel writing, that is, you give maybe, let's say, you are giving a description about a teacher. A teacher works in a school. She works from 8 to 7:30 to 1:30. She wears saris. Likewise, you give a description about a teacher. You ask them to construct a paragraph about a nurse. So they have to do certain changes over there. A nurse works in a hospital. So the basic structure is provided, but based on the information or based upon the content, there are some changes that are required to be made. With average learners, mostly parallel writing works very well. The skeleton or the structure, basic structure is given, but the rest of the vocabulary and the information needs to be changed. So all these can be done during the practice stage. Go through them and ask me if you don't understand anything. Always remember, 2 tasks are required for practice stage. One, either both can be controlled if the learners are very slow learners, or else one controlled and one semi. It depends on the learner level. Go through some further techniques that we use to create controlled activities other than the previous ones. So these are also controlled ones, semi-controlled ones. Then you have some more techniques that you can use. see whether you are able to understand all these 5 techniques. Are you clear with this? If not, just let me know. Then we come towards production stage, which is known to be a stage to practice free writing, generate their own ideas. So here we are supporting them, we are providing them with controlled and semi-controlled activities. And now it's time for them to work on their own. So in the production stage, we don't provide controlled activities. It's more towards semi-controlled and free activities. The learners are expected to generate language and ideas on their own. Read. To make pupils encode a message and be able to write different types of texts in order to communicate their ideas, semi or free activities can be practiced in this stage. Right? So remember, mostly the production stage lean towards generating free activities. It can be just writing a paragraph. Teacher gives only the topic and make them to write. Teacher makes them to write a paragraph on their own. You don't go to give guidelines or any language help or any information and all. Picture description. You give the picture and ask them to write 5 sentences about the picture. Essays, letters, invitation cards, advertisements, all those. But if you feel that your learners are not up to the mark, they won't be able to write on their own, then you can give one semi-pro activity or maybe give them some kind of assistance. Free writing. When it comes to free writing, only the topic or the task is given and no guidelines are provided. Right? So they have to brainstorm or maybe work in groups or find any way out to get the needed content. Again, 2 tasks should be done under production stage. 2 free or 1 semi and 1 free task should be done. Look at the types of writing activities, not free writing. Free writing, you just give the question and ask them to write on their own. Overall, when we think of writing activities, controlled, semi, and free. 3 types of writing activities should be done during a lesson. Practice stage demands more of controlled and semi. Production stage demands more of semi and free. Right? So keep this in mind. Accordingly, you have to prepare the task. Then you have some widely used writing activities related to all controlled, semi, and free, everything put together. Just go through them. comparisons, you provide them with pictures. Bag means small, smaller, or maybe beautiful, more beautiful, useful, more useful, likewise, right? So comparing two different objects or two different situations. Developing dialogues, writing letters, letter writing, essay writing, all those. Completing dialogues, fill in the blanks, semi-controlled. Guided composition, once again, semi-controlled. You give them the subtopics. Then we come towards the criteria for marking a writing task. When we assess the learner's writing task, we need to give marks for the content, language, organization, and mechanics of writing. Now remember, we talked about this clog. The same clog is observed here as well, but you didn't have the word language being used over there. Right? So content we saw. What was the second L under clog? Very good. Layout. Right? So instead of layout, you have the layout coming under organization. Under the G, you had grammar over there. Now see, grammar is coming as a descriptor under language. So more or less the same content, or you can't say the content, the same descriptors are getting evaluated. You are evaluating for the relevancy of content. You are evaluating for the language appropriacy, grammar and all under L, and organization. And then comes mechanics of writing. This is a new descriptor under which you have the handwriting and spelling punctuation. Under organization, you had the handwriting and spelling checked for clock, under clock. Right? So these are the 4 important descriptors that we need to give marks, award marks, when it comes to assessing any writing task. It can be a paragraph, it can be an essay or a letter. And you need to remember what we look for under each of these main descriptors. Content means what is expected to be included under content. Similarly, language and all the other things. Right, so not only teaching writing, how to write a task, handle a writing task, but also assessing a writing task and giving them appropriate marks is very important. Then you have the correction code, the standard correction code that is used when assessing a writing task. So that usually we just underline or circle and use different kinds of codes when it comes to assessing a writing task. But there is an internationally accepted correction code generally used in exams, when exams are administered and when corrections marking is done, we go by this particular code, right? So there are certain symbols or signs that are used to correct or to indicate the language lapses or the errors. Before that, look at this. Do not, in the classroom context, we are not talking about examination context, but in the classroom context, do not correct all the mistakes, as it would demotivate the learner, particularly with intermediate and small children. Beginners, don't go to correct each and every mistake. Whatever the important one, or maybe the mistake that is causing some kind of a meaning difference, should be corrected for the beginner level as well as for the intermediate level. Then avoid using red pen as it highlights the mistakes. Psychologically, use of red pen, too much red ink on the writing, it will demotivate, or it might not be an appropriate way to handle the learner's writing skill. Therefore, it's advised to use a different color, either purple or green. Point out the more important errors when there are many, right? Don't go to underline, circle, or cut and chop each and every mistake. Highlight only on the important ones. Then you have the correction code used for correcting writing. If a word is missing, or if the learner has omitted a word, inverted V. Word ought to be omitted, unwanted word is written. If an unwanted word is there, you have to use this slant line, one slant line, vertical slant line next to that word. Punctuation related error, underline that particular mistake and put P, capital P. Spelling mistake, underline that spelling mistake, that means the word, and on top put S. No paragraphing, too many points combined together. This is the code. Wherever you find two or more points clubbed together in one paragraph, against that paragraph, these two slanted lines should be drawn. Tense error, T. Grammatical error, G. Underline. We need to underline those words and mark T, G, W, wrong word. Word order, WW. Repetition, the same point being repeated. Just draw two vertical lines and put R. Unable to fathom or can't comprehend, question mark. Good points, well expressed, good vocabulary, B. Right, so this is the internationally accepted correction code when it comes to formal examinations. This is how the writing task will be assessed. Right. Look at your self-study task now. Tell me the answer for the first one. What are the three kinds of writing activities that can be used in a writing class? When we do a writing lesson, what three different kinds of writing activities that we can do during practice and production stages? Tell me. We talked about them. Just name them. During the practice stage, what kind of writing activities should be done? I don't find the answer. Not listing. You don't know the answer. Tell me the 3 different kinds of writing activities I talked about. Production stage, what kind of writing task should be given in the production stage? Look at the slide and read. What are the different kinds of writing tasks? It's there on the slide. Read out quickly.
Guided writing,
Mhm.
copying,
No, no, no,
brainstorming,
no. No, 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 no. The 3 types or kinds of writing tasks. The
control,
main controlled,
semi-controlled and free.
free, right? So all these can fall under one of these, either controlled or semi-controlled, or else free, right? So one of all the different techniques that we saw, looping, listing, mind mapping, all can come under these 3. So these are the predominant types of writing activities. So that is what they are asking. 3 kinds of writing activities. You don't have to write anything else, just mention those 3. Then give 3 examples for each kind. So you have to mention controlled activities. Give me some examples for controlled activities quickly. 1 or 2 examples for controlled. Then 1 or 2 for semi and 1 or 2 for free. Look at your snapshots and tell me. You don't need to give 3 examples. Just give me 1 example for a controlled activity.
Guided writing,
Very good. Guided writing, listing, jumble sentence, copy. Yeah, copywriting, right? So likewise, you have to mention control writing, copywriting, substitution table. Substitution table can come for controlled as well as semi. If you don't fill the cages, then all the cages, then it can become the semi-controlled activity, right? So we talked about it here. Controlled, this one, this is a semi-controlled substitution table. If everything is filled, then it can be controlled activity. That's how it goes. Then correct the following passage using the correction code. Right, so only 2 lines are there, very tiny passage. You use this correction code and try to correct it. Right now, for example, he, H, it should be capital, but you have the simple H over here. So underline it. And what is the code that you are going to use? Let me know which letter you have to use. It. Grammatical error. Is it a grammatical error? Word isn't. Mistake in punctuation. or maybe not spelling, mistake in punctuation, no capitalization. Therefore, it has to be, you have to underline he and put P. He came here missing, so put inverted V. Likewise, correct the rest of it. Mention the third question, fourth question. Mention appropriate pre-writing activities to teach the following. When you are going to teach paragraph writing, what can be the pre-writing activity you can give? For example, jumble sentences, right? Or else substitution table. Likewise, you decide on any kind of pre-writing activities. We saw some pre-writing activities for young learners as well as for beginners. Now, paragraph writing usually is done with young learners. Thereby, what can be? Write any two pre-writing activities. One for paragraph writing, then instruction, two for each. Last one, fifth question. Choose one of the above mentioned topics, that is paragraph writing or writing instructions. You have to choose one of the five and plan a writing lesson for 30 minutes. So you need to write, first of all, presentation. How are you going to present? If you are, for example, if you have chosen notice writing, how will you present the notice to the class? It can be the product model or process model. Think of any ways by using a visual or maybe by playing a game, right? So how you are going to present the concept of notice to the class. Discussion means what are you going to discuss related to notice. You can discuss when do you write out notices, or maybe what are the different situations you have to write out notices. Likewise, you can bring in different techniques to present the concept. You can have a discussion or a question and answer session. At the same time, show them a model, write out all those, right? So that is for the presentation stage. Then practice stage, what are the two tasks you are going to do? And production stage, what are the two tasks you are going to do? Just write them. You don't have to formally write a lesson plan. That is not expected from you. Just write what you will be doing in the presentation stage and the two tasks that you will be handling in each practice and production stage. Right? So that's it you have to do for the fifth question. Put informal or formal letter writing and write presentation, what you are going to do. Practice, what are the two tasks you are going to give. Production, what are the two tasks you are going to give. That's all. So go through the self-study task once again and ask me if you don't understand anything or if you want to clarify anything. Right, so that is, are you in need of any slide to these ones? Right, then complete this self-study task. Right, complete this self-study task. I'll be sharing the handout with you. Can I share the handout with you now? Are you in your laptop? Anyone? Okay, doesn't matter. I'll share it with send it to the institute and they'll be sharing it with you. Only one person is there in the laptop. So again, I need to send it to the institute. So I'll be sending the handout to the institute right now and they'll be sharing it with you. Make use of the handout and all these snapshots that you have taken and complete all the 4 self-study tasks, particularly the 5th one. It's very important. You will need this when you are going to do your micro teaching session. Therefore, try to plan out one of these activities, create a mini lesson plan for one of these activities so that it will be helpful for you later. So that's it. With this, we are concluding the Unit 7. We need to start the Unit 8 in the next class. You won't be having your next class next week. Maybe after the 5th or so, you'll be informed when your next class would be, but not next week, right? So you won't be having the class next week. Maybe in January, early part of January, we'll be having it. Okay, then. See you. Good night.